Hello everyone, welcome back to Fanblade. It's the final episode, hopefully. I've only got a couple of days left and I've got a gig on Sunday afternoon and I'd really like to play this thing, which gives me 2.5 days to get this thing completed. That's not a lot of time, but there's not actually a lot left to do. The neck is done. The neck is just gorgeous. I never would have believed how much I would like a blackened neck like that, but and it feels good. I'm super happy for that. The pickups are the best design I can come up with the best variations that I could come up with. It's not quite their final design yet, but I believe the sound that these make is going to be the best that I can produce without, things like computer-controlled winding machines and just for consistency and things like that. So, super happy with them. The body. I love the shape, I love what the wood on the top is going to look like. I'm not super impressed with the way the back looks. I mean, it's not sanded out to its final finish yet, and there's still quite a lot of work to do here, but honestly, getting it to that point, that was a right pain in the neck. I will never work with spruce again. It was tough to get it to this stage, but it's there now, so gonna run with it. What I need to do now is pull this tape off and see how bad the line looks, or how much masking tape actually winds up being glued onto the wood, and sand all that out. But like I say, that's not really a problem. We're not even close to being done sanding on this thing yet. Carefully mark out exactly where the neck's going to sit, cut a neck pocket. Once that's in, I can work out exactly where the bridge is going to be and then put the pickups in. That's not really going to be difficult. It's just basic woodwork. We're cutting some holes in a piece of wood. Fairly precise holes, but it's just basic woodwork. The temperature is beautiful. It is exactly 18 degrees Celsius in here, which is perfect for getting in and doing some hard work. So that's where we're at. I'm going to pull the masking tape off and see what we get. Slight change of plan. This is extremely tough to get through. Even with a freshly sharpened and stropped chisel, it's tough going. So I'm actually going to bore most of this out with a couple of Forstner bits. I've got a brand new set of Forstner bits of all different sizes, so I should be able to get in reasonably tight, and then I'll just clean the rest up with a chisel. I have been calling this ash. My friend and mentor Peter Stephen seems to think that it's elm. I've never knowingly worked with elm before, so yeah, it could well be. He's usually right about these things, and I tend to take him at his word. So yeah, all right, elm and spruce. Not quite what I was expecting to be working on, but here we are. It is just a tiny little bit too small right now. It's exactly where we want it. We'll hone it in as we go. So the neck is on. The neck is exactly where I want it. I'm very happy with that. Now I've got to figure out the pickup placement. Now, I normally like to put a pickup on the 37th fret, which is about there. It's on a full-scale bass, it's about 100 mil from the bridge, so sort of about there. I have noticed on lots of bass guitars that I've played that when a pickup is centered across the 37th fret, that just seems to be the nicest balance between girth and growl. It's just a really, really natural sounding, nicely balanced kind of a sound. Very useful sound. I like it. I can't do that on this one because obviously I've got these holes to cover up. So what I'm going to do, I could just sort of center a pickup on the holes. That's too far back for me. I'm going to push it as far this way as I can. Yeah, so there's just right on the very edge of the holes. So that is, what's that? That's sort of roughly centered about 80 mil from the bridge. Yeah, okay. I was sort of thinking as well it might be interesting to stick the second one where a P pickup would be, so get a bit of that sound, which is sort of roughly 135, give or take a bit. So that's about there. Now, I would be happy with that, but I would be worried that the difference in sound between that position and that position wouldn't be enough to warrant even having a second pickup. Therefore, I'm going to push this one a little bit further that way. In fact, if I stick, I think it's 95, so roughly there, they are the same distance apart as a jazz bass. Whereas a jazz bass placement would actually have them both about there, or sort of there. Yeah, this is going to sound like a jazz bass without the hum and just a little bit fatter. So, yeah, it's a compromise. It's not exactly what I want, because exactly what I want is one pickup about there. But I can't have that, so next best thing, something like that. I will measure it out properly before I mark it. Actually, I'm going to do that right now, aren't I? Yes, right, let's do this. Neck is on, pickups are in, everything's looking pretty good. I now need to simply cut a control cavity and have a chat about the controls that are going to go on this thing. Now, obviously, I'm going to need a volume per pickup. Could potentially rewire it at some point to have a blend knob and a master volume. That would probably be my preference, actually. But, note, no tone knob. I don't believe in tone knobs. I don't use them. It's just more circuitry that gets in the way. I like it. I believe in simplicity when it comes to controls on your bass. Now, that said, I have actually commissioned a friend of mine to build a little fuzz unit to go inside this thing. It's not ready yet. He hasn't quite finished it, and I need to cut this control cavity, and I don't know how big I'm going to have to make it to accommodate that fuzz unit. So I'm thinking of putting that in a different bass. It's not like I don't have another one, or 8, that I can put that in, but for now I need to cut a control cavity, and it's going to be a small and simple one, output on the side, probably. The only other thing is, yes, control cavity cover. I've been doing experiments with laminating my own pickguard material. I made that. I painted and made that out of 2 pieces of 1mm polycarbonate. And for the bass that I'm thinking of sticking the fuzz unit in, that's going to need a whole new pickup and a whole new pickguard. So I'm thinking of bundling all of that together into one future video. So, Mike, if you're watching, I still want the fuzz unit. But it may not be going in this bass. So, yes. So, essentially, I'm going to cut a small section of this out. Normally what I do is use the pantograph to cut a shape into the back and then cut a shape into here so that they correspond. I'm not going to do that because all of the patterns that I've got for this one are way too big and they're sort of the wrong shape. There's nowhere to put it where it'll sort of sit nicely. So I'm just going to drill a couple of holes in the back of the bass and join them up. It's finally time to finish this. I'm super excited to get to this because I really want to see how this top looks. It's gonna look amazing. I'm really, really excited to do this. A couple of different processes involved here. So first off, when I pulled the masking tape off, there's a little bit of residue there. There's a little bit of seepage come through. That's not necessarily that much of a problem. I have tried cleaning that off with some wax and grease remover, and whatever that white residue there is porous enough that when I added the wax and grease remover on there, it vanished. So I'm hoping that that's either going to go away when I put the super glue on the top, or it'll get hidden with the stain, or it'll come off with the wire brush. Now, with the wire brush, I've got to be very careful not to actually hit this bit. So I'm going to mask off this bit, but because I sort of want to be able to blend that transition in and make sure I get rid of whatever this white stuff is, I'm going to go about 2mm down from the line with the masking tape, and This is the wire brush that I'm using to scuff up the top. I'll talk about that in a second. But for just getting that edge, I've got the tiny one. It's a little toothbrush. Don't use it on your teeth. That could end very badly indeed. However, it will work great on this. Now, this thing here, this is a monster of a thing. The bristles have a bit of natural twist to them from being used in that direction. So as they're coming around, they're sort of stroking across the wood. Whereas if I run it in the opposite direction, they're going to dig in. I don't want that. That's going to be far too aggressive. So making sure we're on a soft setting, make sure we're on a slow setting. All we're trying to do is dig into the soft parts of this grain so that they take more stain, and then we can sand everything off, and that grain should pop straight out. This is going to be quite spectacular, the bit that we all look forward to. Okay, change of plan at number 77. The stain's gone in the grain. Looks pretty good. It's also gone in the end grain. It's gone quite dark, and it's very difficult to sand it out evenly when you're sanding on a corner like that. The easiest way to fix all of this is going to be to apply more stain around the outside, maybe about an inch or so in as well, and then just sort of sand that out so it gets a kind of a fake sunburst effect. Should look pretty nice, and well, at the very least it'll look way nicer than that patchy nonsense there. So yeah, that's what I'm going to have to do. So here goes. That's what I'm talking about. Yep. That's... Oh, man. Worth the effort? Too bloody right it's worth the effort. Look at that. That's amazing. Right. I have got an interesting couple of hours ahead of me, darting in here, sticking on some glue, then running out before the formaldehyde kills me. 10 minutes later, doing the same thing again. Next time you see this, we'll be finished, and probably in a couple of seconds. It's been 24 hours. I should say as well, 24 hours of perfect atmospheric conditions. It's been pretty much a consistent 17 degrees C, and the superglue just went on, just dried pretty much instantly, and I was able to it's had about 30 or 40 coats, and it's great. It's looking amazing. The back's not quite so amazing, but no one's going to see that anyway, unless you look too hard. Try not to look too hard. I'm not that impressed with the seam. I do not recommend that process for the seam, but the only reason I did that was because the back is too soft. Again, I'm never working with spruce again. It's just not worth it, and the results are not ideal. The top, however, very much ideal. Every sixth coat or so, I'd give it a rub down with some 600 grit, then just piled on for the final push, as it were. Brought it back with some 400, then 600, and then just hit it with some, I think it's 000 synthetic steel wool. It's cut off a little bit, and you rub it all down, and the whole thing is ready for its final polish. Except it's not. There's still more stuff to do. I need to put in some neck bolts, and I found some black ones. So that's kind of neat. And weighing in at just over 3.5 kgs, it's done. I found a nut. That just happened to be the right width, so I just had to file the height down a little bit. And she's alive. Both pickups on full. Just the neck pickup. Just the bridge pickup. It's not bad, eh? I couldn't be happier with that. That plays really nicely. The action's a smidge lower than it needs to be, maybe. I could probably actually raise that, even. But I've already taken this to play a gig. I played a gig with this afternoon. I'd like to take a brief moment here to thank my band members for putting up with me bringing all manner of weird but occasionally wonderful basses to gigs. That's Dean on drums, Rob on guitar, and Tim on guitar, vocals and harmonica. Special thanks goes out to our friend and all-round legend Big Al for filming a lot of our stuff. We're called Sign of the Firebird, and there's a link in the description to our Facebook page where you can find loads of our live videos, all courtesy of Big Al. I'd also like to thank everyone who's commented on this series with either a good joke, some encouraging words, or the occasional stroke of genius. It's a great little community of people down in the comments section, which is a very, very rare thing to find on YouTube, and I am grateful for all of you. So thank you very much for watching, thank you very much for subscribing. There's a ton of good things planned for 2024, and I'll be back to tell you about them very, very soon. Cheers.